Okay, let's let's have some good talk here. Let's talk about the Towards study that just finished. What an amazing piece of work you guys did. So can you tell us a little bit about the nexus of this kind of study that you did, how it came up, why you decided you wanted to do it, what things you were seeking to do, and how the study was designed?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have been working with several different employers, so large companies, taking care of their employees to improve their metabolic health. And so it's been an amazing opportunity to have these companies let us work for them. And then also the fact that these companies are so interested in their employees' well-being that they're paying for us to take care of their employees. So that first off, I got to thank the companies for advocating and caring about the health of their employees and doing something about it. And so it's truly just how we've been practicing medicine, and we keep all the data for the individuals that we're working with. And so at 1 year, we had data on 50 people that they've completed 1 year in the program with us. And we're thrilled to share the results with everybody. And the intervention, I'll say, I guess we're doing, for those who don't know. So we are a telemedicine-based company. Dr. Tro does see some patients in person who live up in New York. But we used, and what Towards stands for is text-based communications and messaging. So we are available basically 24/7 to our patients to try to help them whenever they are in need of help, basically. If they're going to a restaurant, they're not sure what to order to help stay low carb, or their blood pressure is dropping, maybe because, again, they're now eating low carb and blood pressure gets a whole lot better. So we're available anytime. O is for online interactions. We've got an app that is full of courses and information for people on all things metabolic health, weight loss, food relationship, and then wellness coaching. We have some amazing health coaches that are part of our team and instrumental to really the success of our patients. Asynchronous education and community support, again, going back to the app, letting people go through the app, and then also having a community chat so people can support each other, ask questions. R is real-time biofeedback and remote monitoring. So we're tracking people's blood pressure, weight, and continuous glucose monitoring for at least the first month of the program, and then kind of depend on their blood sugars if they would like to continue using the CGM, or if they feel like they've got a solid standing without one. And then the dietary modification is TCR, or therapeutic carbohydrate reduction, and we typically recommend less than 30 grams of total carbohydrate per day, not worrying about counting the non-starchy vegetables like broccoli or cauliflower and salad greens. And then intermittent fasting. And when it comes to intermittent fasting, everybody's got their own routine that kind of works for them. That's something we work a little bit later on. So some people, end up eating 2 meals a day. Some people might eat 1 meal plus a snack. Some people are going to intermittently do a little bit longer fasting, 36, 48 hours. So a lot of variation, just person to person, where they're at in their journey.
Wow.
And so that's the intervention.
So it is quite involved. Obviously, there's multiple things that you were doing. How did you find the coaching aspect? Like, were you part of the coaching team coaching these people, or was it more the coaching team? And how labor intensive, I guess, was that?
Yeah, so I definitely would consider myself kind of a part of the coaching team, but the health coaches themselves, they, even way more so probably than I do on, say, a daily or a weekly basis, are texting back and forth with the patients to help them. And how it initially starts. So they see the health coach, then they'll follow up, see myself with the health coach for a long initial visit. And then at that point, there's weekly visits initially. We'll space out to every other week, and then monthly visits after month 4.
Okay. That's exactly what, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no. Well, so they'll see the coaches more often. So they might have 2 visits in a row with the coaches, and then the next one would be myself.
Got it. Okay. Yeah, it sounds very much like the coaching that I do with my nutrition coaching clients, where, like, initially, yes, you need a lot of help, and I'm giving out my cell phone and text me and message me, and like, it's a lot of work for the first few weeks. And then after a while, you just stop hearing from these people, and you're like, hey, you still out there? You still doing good? And people are like, yeah, I got it. kind of figured it out, especially with the CGM for at least a
Mhm.
month. That will teach you so much, just that one tool alone.
100%. And what's awesome, this not related to the paper, but just kind of excites me as well, is I actually had a new patient, also one from the employee wellness program, and he had lost 50 pounds before his initial visit because he had downloaded the app and was using the app.
That's
And
awesome.
like, this is amazing. So he's coming to see me, and basically he's done my job, and I'm just encouraging him, keep going. You're doing awesome. Maybe we tweak things here and there.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, and I did see the slide that showed the selection process. So I believe the company had something like, what was it, 2,000 employees or 1,000 employees, and 200 were interested in being enrolled in the study. And how did you end up choosing the 50 that participated?
Yeah, so everyone had their medical history, their medications that they were currently taking, weight history, food relationship, kind of these were in different questionnaires basically. And so we tried to select people who had the most kind of medical need. So looking at who was on the most medications, especially if they're on medications like insulin or sulfonylurea. So these are diabetes medications that contribute to weight gain and actually increase future risk for heart disease. And so yeah, basically the more medical conditions, the more they needed help and really to improve their metabolic health. That's who we were selecting first.
Got it. Okay. And then I did see that a few people dropped out, although I have to say it was for lots of different reasons, and it was a vast minority. So fair to maybe bring it up to say that some people did drop out, but again, multiple reasons and very few people.
Yeah, for sure. And that's something even, going forward too, it's really variable from cohort to cohort how many people drop out. So out of the 50, we had 9. 3 people didn't no longer work for the company. 5 people, just said, I'm taking a step back. They didn't give us a reason. And then one person said there's a family emergency basically and dropped out for that reason. So yeah, I think, and generally for a nutritional study intervention, that's a great dropout rate.
Yeah, that is really good. It would be fun to go follow up with the 3 people that are no longer with the company, just to say like, maybe they're still on it and still killing it, or whatever company they're at now.
One of them actually did text us 3 months after dropping out, and he did give us a wonderful update that he and his wife are still crushing it. So,
oh, that's awesome. That's really encouraging.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Okay, well, if there's anything else we need to talk about as far as the setup to the results, we can mention that. If not, we can go right to the results and hear about what you guys found.
Yeah, no, I think we can jump into the results. Just, I guess, real quickly, people may, be aware of this at this point, but I just like to kind of put it in perspective why metabolic health is just so critical, and we really need to be finding new interventions to basically turn the tides. So currently 38% of adults have either prediabetes or type 2 diabetes, and 42% of adults now have obesity. So the cost of type 2 diabetes on the medical system per year is over $400 billion. And the cost of obesity and just direct costs is over $170 billion per year. And so
big problem.
big problem. And, we'll talk a little bit about the GLP-1 medications. These are things like semaglutide, Ozempic, tirzepatide, Mounjaro, Wegovy, the different names for it. And these are very effective medications. But if everybody who qualified for one of these medications was put on one of these medicines, that would be costing close to $1.9 trillion per year.
Oh my.
So that is not an effective or cost. It is not realistic. That's not a solution to our crisis that we're having.
Wow, I should have invested in Novo Nordisk.
Yeah. It's crazy. I mean, I remember the day looking at the stock price after one of their papers came out. I'm just wild.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, thank you for pointing that out. And there were some people on those medications that were included in this trial, I would assume.
Yes. Yep. So we had there was about, oh gosh, I'm going to draw a blank on the exact number. I believe it's about 8 patients who were taking these medications, and most of them were actually, I can pull it up pretty quickly. Actually, they were taking these medications prior to the start of the trial. Once they joined, we did actually taper 4 individuals off of these medications. Great. And those 4 individuals that we tapered off, they continued to have weight loss or did not regain more than a few percentage points of body weight, which is great. And we have many, like several month data following stopping these medications, because when you look at the trials that use these medicines, when people stop them, they have a huge weight regain, very close to baseline. And so the fact that people were able to taper off and stop these medications and continue or maintain their weight loss is great, and just points again to, I think, the dietary intervention in large part.
Yeah, that's a big thing that everybody talks about. These are lifetime medications. Once you're on it, you'll never get off it, or you will regain all the weight. So that's very, very encouraging to hear.
Yeah. And so actually, let's see, I didn't misquote that, the amount. So it was 4 from the start. And then we did start 2 people on these medications ourselves. And one of them was doing really good with the dietary changes, but was having still having really invasive food thoughts that was interfering with daily life. And once we started it made a huge difference. And so, wow. You know, I am not opposed to using these medications. I have a few people, not a lot, but I do have a few people on them. And again, they can be very effective. I think you just want to use them selectively.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And just like we were talking about earlier with the insulin and the smaller numbers, if you're using a dietary intervention, I'm assuming you can make a much lower prescription of these medications and thus have way less side effects. That must be something that they reported.
Yeah, yep, that too. I have one other person who has a condition called lipedema, and they can have like very painful fat areas on their body, like they can get nodules, and the individual is actually able to take a dose once every 2 weeks, and doing that greatly improves her lipedema symptoms.
Wow,
and so amazing. I am happy to have a way to help her improve her pain. That's something she deals with on a daily basis.
Yeah.
And again, she's just taking it basically every other week, and it works.
Great.
And
That's
she's
really encouraging.
Lifestyle changes too. And she, just to point out, even prior, going onto a ketogenic diet significantly improved the symptoms as well. So it's
all the time.
Both of those things have just really had a huge impact. And interestingly, the higher the level of ketone, noticed further benefit from the pain and inflammation from the lipedema.
Wow. Yeah, you hear about that all the time. And what must be the most frustrating and awful condition ever? Lipedema sounds just absolutely terrible to try to manage.
Yeah, it can be really, really tough, and really hard for the patients, for sure. Yeah. The one other individual we did start one on was someone who has had type 2 diabetes for a long time and has had amputations as complications from the diabetes. And so again, someone who is very high risk and is working on the lifestyle changes, but again, this medication with their level is helpful. It is. And so, yeah, again, I think selecting the right person, and what worries me a lot about these medicines is in part the clinics that are online, and people can just get these medications without a lot of extra lifestyle education or support on them. And then insurance stops covering them, and then they haven't changed their lifestyle at all. And that's when you see, again, the weight rebound, and it just can be really hard for people.
I've also heard on that note that like some of the online clinics, like sourcing the drugs can be really sketchy and dicey, and where they're getting them from and how pure they are is really tricky. I've heard some horror stories there as well. Yeah,
definitely true. So while we're, continue talking about the GLP-1s. So on the results, we had at 1 year, 15.5% total body weight loss. And when you compare that to semaglutide or Wegovy in the step 1 and step 2 trials, the major trials, they had a 14.9% weight loss. So yeah, so that was super exciting to see that we beat out Wegovy. And the other aspect that is actually, I think, very relevant is losing more than 5% of your total body weight is considered clinically significant. You start to see improvements in blood pressure, lab values, overall health. And so we had over 90%, 92% of people who lost more than 5% of their body weight. When you look at the step 1 and step 2 trials, they had 68% and 86%.
Wow.
And so, yeah, so that was, again, I think just shows the power of lifestyle changes, and the right lifestyle change is not, telling someone to eat less and move more.
Right. That's amazing. Yeah. What were some of the other final results you guys calculated?
Yeah. So based on medication deprescription, which stopping medications is one of my probably favorite things to do besides celebrating the different victories patients tell me about. We stopped 96 medications in these 50 people. And that cost savings for the company turned into an $83,000 per year, or about $1,700 per person.
Incredible. Wow. That's amazing. And actually, on that note, I do want to point this out. I heard Tro talking about this recently. Like, you guys are working with other companies, and that's the hook, right? That's the pitch that you're trying to pitch to some of these higher ups in these companies, is we're going to save you tons of money. But Tro himself has been really surprised that a lot of the motivation of these CEOs and people making decisions is actually has nothing to do with money. It's more the health of their employees, and they really care more about the health. And they're like, yeah, we'll pay whatever costs is fine, but like we want to improve the lives of our employees. I thought that was really encouraging.
Yeah, I mean, it's awesome. It really is. These the C-suite individuals of these companies, they are passionate about metabolic health. They care about their employees, and they realize that eating low carb, changing your lifestyle is going to make you a happier person, a healthier person, and then also that makes you a better employee, and hopefully you'll stay with the company. It's a great I think it's a great model.
Wow.
I think it's the way it has to be done. The incentives in the traditional clinic model do not, and I'm in the traditional clinic model, they don't align to spending the time with patients and getting them off of medicines and following up, making sure they're staying on the eating pattern, or troubleshooting whatever you need to troubleshoot with patients to keep them on a low carb ketogenic diet and help them. Whereas as Laura was saying, the companies want to keep their employees healthy and happy. In the traditional clinic model, it's really insurance based, and there's a large impulse really to prescribe and manage, but not really truly get to the underlying treatment of what's going on.
Yeah, good point. Wow, that's amazing. Were there any other data points that you were looking at in this study, or was that it?
Yeah, actually, two other things I'll quickly add to, and just to clarify. So 15.5% total body weight loss equated to an average of 43 pounds per person at 1 year. And then other things that we did not talk about in this paper, but we're working on publishing for future papers, that I think is pretty exciting, what we're seeing is improvement in binge eating, food addiction symptoms, and then significant improvements in A1C, lipids, triglycerides plummeting, blood pressure improvements. So I'm excited that, and hopefully the next, several months here coming up, we'll have some other papers published with that data.
That is so amazing. Wow. Wonderful results. And I want to say also that, like, you have objective things, obviously, that you measure and you report on, and the cost savings, the weight loss and everything. But you also have to think, like, the people in the weight loss drug trials were probably dealing with significant side effects, where the people on your trial probably had incredible side effects and other things that were positive. Both were subjective and probably not something you can really study as much, but the anecdote must have been completely different on your side versus what it would have been on the drug side of things.
Yeah, 100%. I'll just share several of the stories that I loved hearing from my patients. So one of them, wedding ring that couldn't fit for years could now fit again. Someone else who had not been able to ride a bike for a long time, now riding a bike for miles. Going to Disney World, it can be a ton of fun, but you have to walk a lot. And so one of the individuals said they were able to go to Disney World and not just sit on the park bench. They actually were able to walk around the whole day and enjoy the time with their family, instead of saying, I'll catch up with you later.
Wow, that's amazing.
There's just several people who were really excited, and they didn't have to ask for a seatbelt extender on when flying again.
Wow.
And
incredible.
And so it's these types of real life, these are people who just their quality of life is so much better.
Yeah.
And I'd encourage people, because it's very empowering, and but basically we have interviewed some of the people in these programs that on the Low Carb MD podcast, to hear their stories and their change in their life. And it's just incredible to hear their stories. And so it's very motivating.
Yeah, I loved those episodes, by the way. They were really, really well done and very insightful. I love that. You also have to think, like, what is the ripple effect, right? Like, if you're working with one employee, well, that employee has a family and kids
Yeah.
and a spouse and friends and neighbors. And you just wonder if those ripple effects also helped many more lives out there.
Yeah, I mean, so we can't really collect data on it, but both Tro and myself, and you talk to any of the health coaches, we have numerous family members that have adopted low carb and lost over 50 pounds or over 20 pounds while their family member who's in the program. Someone who said, they had talked to all their cousins about it, and now they had several cousins adopting it. And the individual I mentioned earlier who just downloaded the app and has lost 50 pounds prior to starting the program. And so, thankfully it really is, people see the results, and then it's not only a weight loss results, but they see how much more energy and how much more positive, and their mood is improved. And that is just, I mean, you can feel that, you see that in a person's face when you're talking to them.
Wow. It's conversations like this that just help me like really appreciate the contrast of everything we were talking about in the beginning of this conversation, and the way the American Diabetes Association is making recommendations that make no sense, and kids are remaining very sick, and the problems are getting worse, and they're ignoring people like Matt. And you see this whole other side where it's like you guys are like hitting, home runs. Everybody is getting better, and the numbers are incredible, and it's just so interesting to see the contrast, and like the darkness on the one side versus like the light of the other side. It's amazing to reflect on.
Yeah, it's honestly, I mean, it's so exciting, and I love practicing medicine. I'm so grateful that I get to practice medicine the way I do, because when I go to work, I just get to, for the most time, I mean, people do struggle, obviously, and you got to help them and try to navigate and figure out how to navigate, social situations that can be really hard. But for the most part, people are just doing so well, and they feel so good, and getting to experience that and do that on a daily basis. And again, take people off of medications is so rewarding.
That's amazing. I'm guessing that if I were to interview 100 random doctors out there, probably 99 of them would not have had the same response that you just said, that you are so excited to go to work and help people. And just reflecting back on the first conversation that you and I had about your career journey and how you decided to get into this, if that hadn't happened, imagine your career being so much different now and being trapped in a model that you're stuck in and can't get out of. It would have been completely different.
It's crazy. I mean, I think about even during residency, I would have 15-minute appointment slots. And now my initial appointment is an hour and a half. And we don't always need an hour and a half, but a lot of the time we do. And then follow-ups are at least 30 minutes, if not an hour. So you have time to really get to the root and then really figure out how you can help that person in front of you.